we're not sure whether we're actually ready to get started, but even if we weren't, the cameras are rolling. So, Shipbreakers, Stars Without Numbers Revised, Episode 10. This is the crew of the LAS Golden Goose, scrappers, salvagers, people who now find themselves so far over their heads in trouble. They are literally only their heads right now. Did we settle on any goal changes?
I believe crew goal, it sounded like we were coalescing around essentially protecting whatever Van-Vee is or isn't, getting Van-Vee back onto the ship in some way, shape, or form.
That's
Maybe
complicated, but I'll allow it.
separate the dust pile, and then I can be like an AI where I can have my core and then my armature, but it's both just dust and dust.
That screaming naked man is your armature, buddy.
I feel like I need an upgrade. I think Van-Vee's short-term goal, because of the after calming down, will be to figure out if he is truly dangerous based off what Ferry and Iono have told him. He's probably scared of himself.
That is so broad. I feel like I mean, name one thing that isn't truly dangerous. You know what I mean? You can stab someone to death with a spoon.
Am I a threat to the rest of the crew?
Again, I feel
still
like
too broad.
That could even be said of Louis. All he needs to do is get capybara flu and pass it to all of you. Like, I understand the context that you're asking it in.
Happy cough, you don't want it.
But the answer is almost certainly yes to those questions. Like,
am I not in control, or is it possible for me to not be in control?
Yes. Okay. Short term. Well, phrase it in the form of an achievable goal.
Determining if I am always in control.
Wants you to set your own goals for
determining if I am always in control, or if there is a puppet master.
Determine if I am always in control. Or if. Okay. Anything any of you want to do before we get started here? Because this episode's probably starting at 10 and not slowing down for a little while. So I just want to, you got to get a drink, go to the bathroom, kiss your children goodbye, anything like that. Play with a pet.
I'm ready.
We pick off precisely where we left off. I would like the following people to make the mental saving throws: MINERVA and Van-Vee.
Oh shoot, I haven't logged in yet. My bad.
This will be to change your form to what you believe you look like, now that you're both actively attempting to do so. Yes. Both of you may, on those successes, change your form.
Based off what we think we look like?
You can form a mental image of what you want to look like in here. I think is probably the better way to say it.
I think Van-Vee's image looks like the fleshy armature screaming beneath him.
But do you have clothes on?
No, but I feel like it's also very distorted. Like he's struggling to focus on what that image would look like now.
Okay. All right.
Because he doesn't know what he thought he was. Is
two naked Van-Vees struggling on the ground. One of them is like weirdly warping, Star Trek Voyager CGI style. We're gonna go straight on back to the early 2000s. MINERVA?
So MINERVA is taking there's a blue surcoat with a coat of arms on it, with a horse head on it with stars in the background. And there's a look of like plate armor coming up from the surcoat. And there's a sword belt on with a scabbard, but there's no sword in it. The surcoat is dirtied and ripped, the armor is dented and rusted, and it looks like she's got scars on her face.
Interesting. The woman who you've met, your second concierge, and a tiny little fairy are privately crying and excitedly talking to each other. Minerva looks like she walked out of the Crusades, I guess. There are two Van-Vees. Quentin, what's going on with you?
Yeah, Quentin says out loud, oh, Jesus, not again.
All of you are on a grassy plain with rolling hills around you, and after a few moments, you can see someone ahead of where your group has essentially spawned into the transhuman interface device, riding a white horse. The horse, it has like some sort of yellow and black banner tabard on it. The man is wearing like a yellow and black doublet with a lot of frill at the collar, and like he's got literal drip coming at the, like, you know, collar, at the
Frothy
wrist.
lace.
I was trying to remember what they called this part of the body. I was like, the hand junction of this. The hand junction. I am definitely human and not a robot, guys. He begins trotting the horse toward all of you down the hill. But it seems that you will probably have about 30 seconds to have a conversation among yourselves before this person arrives.
I'm hardwired to the interface, correct?
Your body is, your armature is connected in the same way that their bodies are also connected.
Okay.
Like they
Quentin
didn't
is
plug
rushing
your
over
quantum
to-
core in, but it is communicating through your nervous system, essentially.
Okay. I would like to, just for a general awareness, use the split focus to stay aware of my armature.
You are able to do so, but you are also aware that your armature is processing data much slower than you. While you're in here, you're processing at the speed of the transhuman interface device rather than your quantum core.
Or is that faster than Minerva's default setting, essentially?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Interesting.
Yeah,
You've been overclocked.
I mean, I'm in a much larger processor. So.
No, it makes total sense for sure. Yeah, absolutely. Quentin is definitely going to be rushing over towards the two Van-Vees. He's seen the dust before it transformed into a slightly wavy Van-Vee.
It was very obvious which one is the dust one.
Yeah. Okay. And just what's the screaming naked guy doing as Quentin is moving over?
You know, he
Minerva.
was basically in like a kneeling, almost prayer position, but now he's like trying to grab Van-Vee and like stand up together.
Okay.
He's like trying to get an arm around his shoulder and then like have both of them stand up. What is Van-Vee doing as a result of a second naked you putting hands on you and trying to stand up?
Probably a lot of muttering under, like, unintelligible under their breath. Like, what am I? Who are you? What just happened? What, like, just question after question that doesn't finish, just trailing off. Like, focusing, doesn't notice the dude in the black and yellow, just not paying attention.
Does this non-dust Van-Vee does this seem like an aggressive motion or a supportive one? Like, is he trying to stand him up to headbutt him or something? Or
why don't you roll notice?
Yeah, good question.
Okay.
Such a tense moment. How could I let such an easy roll go by?
Oh, not with strength. What do you want me to roll that with?
Oh, wisdom for sure.
Okay.
The Van-Vees are both in a state of confusion. I won't say that there's not some form of aggressiveness here, but it's not like, oh, I'm going to murder this person. It's like, I'm confused and I'm not sure what's going on.
Who are you? Who am I? What?
I
Why
don't
am I not
know
you?
who you are, but I know who I am.
Your name is...
I mean, I'm Vandorn. Vantis.
No, I'm Vandorn.
I know that you're also Vandorn Vantis. You've been in my head ever since I can remember things.
You've always been aware of this other personality?
I don't think that he's another personality. It's complicated. He like squares up with you, so it's just two naked Van-Vees looking directly to each other's eyes, and he says, "The first thing you remember is Dad waking us up in the middle of the night and taking us off of wherever we came from."
Wait, do you know where that was?
No. I know everything you know because I've seen everything you've seen.
Are you ever in control?
No. This is the first time I've been able to communicate with anyone else.
I have to say that you have recovered your composure quite quickly.
Yeah.
Really? You think so? I'm freaking out. I thought that I was just like a thing, some sort of fragment, like just a voice that no one could hear, like a mistake. But I'm real.
You are no mistake.
Certainly seem to be here.
So you're Van-Vee. I'm Van-Vee.
I think I'm Vandorn and you're Van-Vee.
Well,
Does that make
come
sense?
Well, Van-Vee is just a nickname I gave us to fit.
Let's just roll with it for clarification.
Look, it's my body. I think that this proves that it's my body.
That's like hologramming through myself. Yeah.
I have come to different conclusions than you after observing you for your entire life.
So have you been like lights on but can't do anything this whole time? Like you're just...
Yes.
Well, dang.
Whenever you're awake, I'm awake, I think.
What about
MINERVA
when
respond
I'm
to that?
not awake?
I think I'm asleep. But how could I prove that?
So you don't believe that you have experienced anything during a time when Van-Vee has been dormant or asleep?
No.
I see.
Do we have the same thoughts? Or are you literally stuck?
No, we don't. Because I think that you're a murderous cretin.
Well, that's not a good start.
I watched you try to bribe a police officer like a dumbass.
I mean, it worked. Got out of the situation.
Look, there are plenty of things that we agree on, like our favorite blast ball team, right?
All right,
But
all right.
you have a different set of skills, mostly because you have skills. I've spent my whole life observing. And I have to say, frankly, I think you do a fine job most of the time, but you're maybe a little racist against artificial intelligences, considering, I don't know, you might be one. And let me just also say, you and the killing, disappointment. Huge disappointment.
This
I don't want to dunk on you too much. Again, you're my only output into the world.
What?
I consider you a brother.
You're dunking on your brother pretty... Wait.
You killed someone. More than one person.
How? I mean, I was trying to survive, man. But what happens? I have so many questions. What? And he just starts like mumbling, like, what would you have done different? How would you like?
The
what
man on
don't you
the
agree
horse
with?
arrives and clears his throat and says, "Welcome to the transhuman interface device, my friends."
Are you here on behalf of the board, or are you a member of the board?
I am a member of the board, but he turns to Fairy and he says, I am here with the proxy votes, 7, of course. 1, 4, 5, 10. She nods and he says, I have the ability to speak for the board in this matter. They've given me jurisdiction over this situation.
It is a pleasure to meet you.
Like
You may
Van-Vee is
call
still
me
like
3,
muttering.
Minerva.
3.
It is nice to meet you, 3. Your daughter has represented you very well.
Ah, I appreciate your usage of that term. However, it would seem your own party needs to get themselves in order. So, I will say this.
I agree.
Miss Minerva, how do you prefer to be called?
I believe there is no point in maintaining the charade here. I am Minerva Hasta.
Very well. Mostly I was just checking your pronouns.
I have found that with the organics that I have transported, they seem most comfortable with the female persona. I
But
am
how
also
do
accustomed
you
to it.
feel?
I have no gendered drive. I refer to myself as they.
Very well. Then let me warn you, I have noticed that you are attempting to reconnect with your body outside of this environment. It would be exceedingly foolish for you to disconnect from the device while you are in use. So I must warn you against moving your material body while you are in here.
I have no intentions of trying to utilize the armature. It was merely a maintaining status. It is a comforting habit.
Armature, what a curiously technical term. I'm afraid that I must allow all of you to compose yourselves, but given that time is no problem here, we have in reality something like 16 hours to resolve our conflicts before the jump, and of course we can delay the jump as long as necessary. I have never actually met you, Anika. And he turns to the stern-looking, dark-skinned woman who was your concierge and says, consider you something of a daughter to me. You know, we've all been watching over you ever since your decision. Would you perhaps like to walk with me for some time? And he hops down from the horse, and the two of them wander off to talk quietly. The tiny little fairy just kind of hangs out near you all while Van-Vee and Vandorn are still standing face to face.
So are we stuck together? Like, when we exit here, is there a way to separate us, or am I? Are you stuck with me? Like,
If you don't know that, I don't know that. You know, I know what you know. I've been present for all of your conversations. So just to be clear, I can't read your thoughts in any way. I only know your actions.
I imagine, like, as like they're talking, he's getting slightly more like comfortable. Not
Real.
like he's not actually comfortable, but like the distortion stops and the mannerisms start being the same.
You had said that my like psionic powers work in here. Is
Yes.
there anything psionically active going on around us right now? Is there anything about the Dust Van-Vee that stands out? Or
You're checking with the meta psionic power?
yeah,
No, there is no psionic powers active here.
okay, and nothing like outside of that passively happening,
Not that you can tell.
right?
It's a bit odd for you. You are passively interpreting data. You haven't tried to actively use a power yet. But it gives you some ability. It is like the Matrix. You are basically aware that your psionic powers are code, and that as a result of your ability to read psionics, you also have some ability to see code happening around you. The issue is that all you're able to see is nothing, right? Because there is nothing, You're just getting a flat 0 incoming.
Okay.
It is
Interesting.
weird, though. You literally have a new sixth sense. It's like a seventh sense for you.
Mm-hmm. Bizarre. Oh, man.
I think MINERVA is just very curious about this conversation between Van-Vee and
for sure.
Vandorn. MINERVA doesn't really have anything comparative.
So I get you're like a prisoner, and I'm the pilot.
I mean, I didn't know that might be possible until now, but yes, you're the pilot. I don't know that I'd call myself a prisoner. Was I locked in there? Was this an accident? Was this intentional? Did they know? Whoever did this? I don't think you did this.
I was gonna say you know what I know, so
Yeah.
Where's the ferry? You said that was
Just floating nearby, just kind of
Floating
passing
nearby.
and listening it. Again, she's
But
only
it's-
3 inches tall.
Yeah, Quentin will walk over there and engage with her at some point when there's
All
a
right.
pause here.
She just kind of hovers, slightly moving, like, an object that a bird hanging in
Mm-hmm.
location has to continuously move while hovering. And she says, "Hello,
Hey there, little one. So what's your name?
I'm Fairy. We've met."
Yeah. Okay. That's well. Were you along for the ride with Anika?
I think that's a great way to look at it. Along for the ride.
Yeah.
Anika and I merged using this transhuman interface device.
That sounds an awful lot like a situation we're looking at over here.
I think Van-Vee's head just kind of swivels. It's like merged. Can you unmerge?
We're here, but
Yeah, but can I unmerge out there?
I'm not sure. My situation is a bit different than yours, of course. I'm not just present with Anika in her body. I'm present in all of the crew members and, of course, in the ship. I don't strictly have a quantum core outside of this transhuman interface device, so I suppose you could consider this my quantum core.
That seems unusual.
It is unusual. A lot about me is unusual, but I think the same could be said about all of you as well. It's a lot of humans, a lot of people, and they're all a little bit more unique than maybe we give them credit for. Van-Vee, I think that you might be able to separate from the body that you're in, but I can't tell you what that would do to you as the dust. We don't know a lot about the dust.
What would it do to Vandorn?
I don't know about that either.
Like, is there a way they can talk to each other outside of here?
You know, like a Venom situation, that'd be nice.
Honestly, I think that there exists a possibility that the two of them could undergo the same merging process that I use. Really,
Well,
there's a barrier between the two of them. They otherwise share almost everything except control of the body. If we could find out what is causing that barrier, the two of them would become one, except when they were in something like this transhuman interface device. I think. I mean, again, it's conjecture. It's
regardless of the change in the status of the two, that would not seem to address any of the potential concerns of Van-Vee's existence.
that obviously Father is going to have a conversation with all of you when you're ready.
father.
The board created me. All 10 of them. So 3 is my father.
What is the?
We are created just as you are. We have
Well, of
parents
course.
just as
I
you
just
do.
are the board also AI?
Well, again, I'm human, not artificial intelligence, but I can understand why you might
I
not think so.
apologize.
The board are humans. They are the members of Banana Fleet when it discovered the transhuman interface device. So, I mean, you should know that on the planet Kos, there was the Rising. There was, of course, starships showing up above, in the space above Kos. The space yard was under the control of Phenomena, but it had very little purpose. We couldn't make germanium, couldn't make spike drives, needed to get that kind of material elsewhere. We didn't understand what we needed to make a drive. I believe they were quite close, according to my historical data. But the transhuman interface device was discovered just shortly before the Rising. And when the Rising happened, the board determined that the best way to accomplish their corporate and philanthropic goals would be to place themselves inside the device and direct operations. But that would require a mobile base. And so over the course of almost 90 years, they laid in what they needed to gather the resources, create at least 2 non-working hulls, and then finally a working carrier. But they needed something to drive it, as they were quickly finding out that they were not suitable for such slow work. So the 10 of them collaborated and they made me. I am a reflection of their human minds. They created a mind like theirs. But of course, their minds had been greatly changed by their time in here. When I'm in a human body, I breathe, I eat, I feel emotions. And when I'm here, she says, shrugging, I can simulate those things because, you know, my parents all could do that. Some of them have turned those abilities off. They don't need to do that while they're in here. You could turn it off while you're in here if you wanted. You probably shouldn't do it for very long. We found that if people do it for more than 10 or 20 years in here, when they go back to their body, they forget things like how to breathe. Going back after turning off your emotions can be shocking. I mean, just many emotions are chemical responses. You don't technically need them.
Yeah, well, yeah, there's
some of them are logical there. Responses. If someone does something bad to you, you'll want to avoid it. That's logical. But something like anger, a desire for revenge, might be less logical. It might be chemical in nature. We've left that on for those of you who are biological, so that, well, a lot of people have trouble telling time when they don't have a heart.
Time is relative, is a thing I am very aware of.
it's good to meet all of you. You know, I've had a lot of guests on board, but not all of them are as powerful as the four of you. With your freedom to move around, you don't belong to any government. You have an agenda that you're pursuing and some pretty special skills to accomplish it.
Appreciate that. That's definitely high praise from you. You're, I would say, quite a celebrity in this sector.
We have to stay mobile. Have you ever heard of the Perimeter Agency?
I have.
I have.
They're real. They're still active. We believe there are 2, maybe 3 cells working in this sector. It's hard to say that they oppose the company's goals, but we try not to open with violence. So it's very disturbing, the level of threat that they place towards us. I honestly can't say how they feel about my parents, but under the old mandate classifications, I think they'd probably say, you know, I'm an unbreaked AI, I'm a human that's a tool, I use humans like tools, so I have to imagine that we're quite high on their... So we always keep moving. Not just to accomplish our goals, but to keep everyone safe. It's hard for them to insert people into the ship's crew.
Have you never experienced breaks? Were you created unbreaked?
I was created here, and I wasn't created as a artificial mind. My mind is human in nature. It is edited, I suppose. It's like 10 minds came together to copy paste and then decided which was going to be kept and which was going to get deleted in making one. Obviously, I've had a lot of time to learn, and every time I form a new partnership, I can gain some new skills. Some of them can translate. Others are... Just because you know how to shoot a gun in one body doesn't translate over to other bodies. You know, your arm isn't the same length, your body doesn't move the same way, that sort of thing. Flying the ship manually is very difficult without a pilot, sort of thing.
You an only child?
I think so, as far as I know. Maybe she turns to look at 3 and Anika and says, maybe not. I guess that my father considers my partners children as well.
Oh, yeah.
If you mean, did they make another artificial human mind, I think it's me. Sorry, we've spent a lot of time talking about me, but honestly, we can't move forward until we talk about the Vantis situation.
I imagine their conversation never ended.
What
They're not
the-
paying attention to
Yeah, I assume that they're still talking to each other.
What do you know about the dust?
I've already told you everything that I know. I think that my father may know a little bit more, but it can't be that much. We do know that dusters are trying to escape into our sector and will go down fighting rather than be interrogated.
Has there been was
Why? What did
We don't
what
know.
are others like me trying to do?
We're not sure.
I mean, you can tell I'm different, right? Like I didn't try to fight. I volunteered and got scanned for this.
We are technically inside a quarantined box inside of the human interface device, just in case you do anything.
How long am I quarantined for?
Until it's determined by the board what to do with you.
I see.
We couldn't know if you would attempt to take control of this device as soon as you've arrived here. You have to admit there
I
is
wouldn't
a
even know how to do
possibility
that.
that you don't know what you could do.
Well, yeah, heck, I'm
If
dust.
you're a
I'm
digital life form, you could have instructions you don't know about.
Can you scan me differently in here than you could out there?
My
Like what?
father is scanning you even now.
Oh, well, permission granted. All right.
Well, you gave us permission outside.
Yeah, but I feel like this is a little different. No, now I'm like out there. I thought
I think our bases are covered.
there was
legally.
me. Now in here, there's
I mean,
me
this is also
and me.
you.
And then I transform back to dust. There's two me's. In dust form. I was about to say I look back. I don't know how you look when you're dust, but
You technically see in every direction while you're dust.
Oh man.
ooh, advantage. 360 no scopes. Here we come. I think
There's that violent dust tendency.
I think she flies up to you. So, like, you're not that much bigger than her. She just says, for you to be visible, this cloud must be incredibly dense, according to what little we know about the dust. It shouldn't normally be visible. It may have been used to spy on mandate citizens. So it being visible would have been, not good. So
how do you usually detect it if it's not visible?
has a pretty specific quantum signature that shows up on scanners.
I see.
Most
So that must have been what you saw then, Quentin.
most post-tech equipment and mandate era equipment, it won't show up on because it's been programmed not to. It's in the code to not show up. Just like your link, the organ you have in your head. It hasn't showed up on any of our scans until we actively fully scanned you, because the scanner is programmed to ignore it.
If there is a quarantine setup, then that means that there must be something historical to establish a precedent of this being dangerous.
There was a infiltrator on Robinson. Sorry, Midapile.
When?
Many years ago. Over 20.
When was the quarantine zone formed? Yeah.
About 20 years ago.
Where on mid pile? Because now he's like, oh shit, that can't be a coincidence.
Someone was attempting to get into the offices of the Chief Justice. And when they were stopped, their body was physically stunned by a surprise blow from behind. And the unique signature of the dust was detected by the building scanners before the body expired. We believe that whatever entity of dust was controlling the body chose to overload its own energy cells and fry the brain and itself inside the body to prevent capture. Once we tracked their movements onto the planet, they knew where it was coming from, and we agreed with our rivals that something should be done, and we contacted several other governments and we set up the quarantine.
Would Van-Vee, so Van-Vee knows he's being scanned like constantly by 3. Would I have any idea like how far scanning goes? Like, can they read thoughts, or is it only
make a programming check?
Oh, this fantastic. MINERVA.
If you ask the question, MINERVA could posit a theory.
I'm not gonna. I don't want to ask it in front of Fairy.
Intelligence.
Damn! Really?
Nice.
Oh my god!
You're not a programmer, but you've gotten a look at the transhuman interface device. Maybe you've game theoried a couple things like this. Certainly, you're a hardware guy. Your active thoughts being read? Almost certainly. Deep dive into what forms your mind? Yeah. Like things you subconsciously don't even know about yourself are on the table here for sure.
So there's nothing I can hide. As soon as I think of something, they already know it.
Everything you are doing is all digital data that can be read.
Well, there's no point in me hiding it, because I think you already know, but I imagine you're sending people to Midipile now, because that's where my family is. That's where my father is. I look like my father. I look like my brother. I came with my father.
To take any actions right now until we know what's going on. We've got
if that's true. You quarantined me. That's an action.
But we're not preparing to go after your family just because we've quarantined. We want to know what's happening. I need to just reassure you that your family is fine for now.
That's very interesting.
Know that the situation is complicated. I'm going to be very honest with all of you. Our projections say that war is inevitable in the sector, and we don't like that. We don't want the war to be between the Federative Principality and ourselves. And if we were to kidnap a family of extremely wealthy, socially powerful magnates, that would be bad. We also can't allow dust technology to fall into their hands.
Well, you've got to be thinking my father must have dust. You must be thinking that. There's no way you're not.
It does seem highly probable.
So either I feel like you're not being truthful with me and that you're already moving on him, or you're so scared about this war that you're willing to let dust possibly be out there and not confirm it.
Less than 1 millisecond has passed outside.
Oh yeah, that time warp thing.
Yes.
You understand that we could spend hundreds of years here and there still would not have been enough time to do anything to anyone outside of this interface. Realistically.
I think my point
in the manner you're thinking.
Like, as soon as we leave this interface, I feel like you're gonna go after my father. I don't see how you could convince me otherwise.
Maybe we've got some negotiations ahead of us, and I think that was definitely one of the items on the table.
Surely it has been explained in a way that you understand the risk that they're taking by bringing you here to talk to you. That
is there a reason we shouldn't go after your father?
What if I let you study me?
But if we determine that your father is a threat, should we do nothing? Because you've asked us to.
Well, heck no. If he's a threat, then of course. But if he's a threat, then I'm a threat. Because you said it yourself. When you scanned me, you said my name was y'all. That ain't true.
I'm sorry, Minerva. I cut you off.
We're all just trying to help him understand. I believe you're here. You have this opportunity because your personal level of danger is being evaluated. I don't believe it has been decided.
Okay.
You are a risk, and mitigations have been taken that are appropriate, while that determination has not been made.
What's clear to me is
my
that
belief.
there is as much they don't know about dust as they do. And that's one of the biggest things that we will need to get over here.
Well, I guess maybe that's what I'm trying to figure out too. If you deep scanned me outside and I came up as y'all, does that not mean my father and I are the same? I mean, are we not the same person then? Or is that we just don't have enough information on that?
We don't have a bioscan of the person you are calling your father. Our systems have determined that your link identifies you as citizen
Can you
Dr. Y'all Vantis.
Can you pull up any records from this incident, any of these incidents with the quarantine zone to show any of these folks that you have previously caught? Do you have there a picture even?
We have some. I'm guessing you're asking because you want to know if they match
Dr.
Van-Vee.
Vantis.
They do not.
Okay.
We do have other lookalikes who have attempted to break quarantine and either were neutralized or destroyed themselves to evade capture. I can say this, Van-Vee. It does seem very probable that we may ask your father and brother and sister for genetic analysis. That is a good starting place. But such a message will take time. They'll have to go through the embassy. It could be, well, for here, a very long time before such information returns. I think it would be better if we were to come to an understanding before we go through this jump.
I think that makes sense. And I would just ask, for my brother and sister, Sophie, nope, that's mother, Zach and Allie, they're probably in the dark as much as I am, if not more so. So I would just ask that be taken into consideration. Nope, you're right. We can't.
The situation has to be approached extremely carefully.
On that, we can agree.
Look, you still haven't given
this
us any information that shows that Van-Vee is any sort of credible, realistic, specific threat. There's unknowns. You don't know what dust is. You don't know what it can do, what they'll use it for, what the actual danger is. You just think there could be.
Yes. The opportunity to scan Van-Vee now, both digitally and in the physical world, is a true boon.
Well, you're welcome.
Let's get through that. Let's get results. Let's find concrete proof that there is an actual danger or not. Right now, we've got nothing. We've got unknowns.
I believe that 3 is ready to speak to all of you.
I think that the one last thing Van-Vee wants to mention to Vandorn is he wants to ask him how far are you willing to go to be free, I suppose.
So he's been standing here quietly, and you ask him a question, he goes, oh right, I forgot I can do things. Sorry, what was the question?
So Ferry said there may be a way for us to I guess I want this is both of us impacted. Where do you stand with how far are you willing to go on results?
I don't know. I think I need to know more before I make any decisions. But here's what I know. And he puts a hand on your shoulder again. And again, the two of you, totally naked, looking exactly the same. He says, we've been together a long time. And while, again, I think that you can be a arrogant, morally reprehensible, spoiled piece of garbage, I don't think that you are a threat to humanity.
Glad I do most of the talking.
You killed 2 people using, well, I guess it's my body. And I had to
I'm
watch
holding
it.
back on saying, guess that means you killed 2 people.
So Ree comes walking
we'll
over.
discuss after. We'll figure out what we're going to do to get out of this.
I am 3, a member of the board, and I am here to negotiate with you. I understand that corporate negotiations with your crew are already underway, but I think, Captain, that you will find that the situation has changed. It is now a question of what you can do for us to earn your freedom from what this could essentially be a prison for you, all of you.
Now, hold on, they ain't done nothing wrong.
Even if we let them go from here, assuming that they are not threats, the information that they have about the dust, the quarantine zone, about you, is an information leak that we cannot allow unaffiliated civilians to exit with.
Well, I
I feel like you're well aware. Oh, go ahead.
We're not threatening you, to be clear. We will want to make sure that you are working for us eventually.
Okay.
With enough time, if it's necessary, you will change your mind. That is a threat. It can take a long time here for things to happen.
Like Van-Vee's image gets a little distorted because I feel like his emotions are just displaying in the pixels of his dust. And MINERVA and Quentin are subject to quarantine and could be stuck and threatened because of something he didn't know about himself.
I don't want to hurt any of you. We are directly attempting to restore respect, dignity, quality, prosperity to all humans. The government that brought the scream down upon us was one that shunned the transhuman interface we use, artificial intelligence. They treated them as second-class citizens, refused to give them an entry into the Link program. We are trying to do better, but there are realities to the situation that Mr. Vantis may be an extreme threat. I feel like my Spanish accent is occasionally, almost always slipping away, but he may be a very extreme threat. And your knowledge of this situation now, at the very least, we're going to ask you for a non-disclosure agreement. That can't be any surprise to you. That is the minimum that will happen before you leave this ship.
And that is the softest thing you have said so far. And I'll be honest, you have my backup more than a little bit with the tack you have taken. But I will say for sure that I understand what you are saying and what you are trying to get at. I need you to understand that you do need to soften that a little bit, because I think you're well aware that anything that happens to the 3 of us on here will have ripples and repercussions that you will not be able to escape.
It's been a long time since someone who wasn't a member of the board threatened.
Again, not a threat, right? Statement of fact.
I think as he smiles, that's where we cut to break. Yeah. maybe we'll have a nice out of character discussion when we get back. Friends at home, stick around for that second half. Well. If it ain't the second half. What do you boys want to do around here?
Does 3 have a proposal to start with, or is he waiting for
He's
us?
just walked over and, ambled over.
Yeah.
Does
we had
seem to
our
be
little
waiting. I mean, you
tete-a-tete.
dropped on him a bit of a threat that people might miss you.
I
if you're
returned
gone.
back to him.
Volley for serve.
He seems to be chewing on that for a minute. If there's anything y'all want to do,
Okay.
or if there's anything the character named y'all wants to do.
Ooh.
Got him.
I think it would be beneficial for all of us if we understood more about the results of the scans thus far and whether our understanding of Van-Vee is incorrect.
Well, I have some preliminary data that I can share with all of you. He turns toward Barry and nods and says, if you can excuse us for a moment, we're going to have a private conversation. She just kind of flies away. Read-only memory cannot be altered once it's in use. Random access memory can be changed. The nanotechnology making up what we are all referring to collectively as the dust cloud has a very small amount of read-only memory and a large amount of random access memory. My initial suspicions are that it has some base code and then it needed a lot of flexibility to be changed in its use. Clearly, it can store energy and also affect physical matter. It's capable of draining energy from one object and moving it to another, or it can be used to 3D print physical objects. Your dust, the random access memory is nothing like the original files. Nothing like what I suspected I'd be looking at. Your personality appears to be stored entirely within the dust, which shouldn't come as a surprise to you, but it is quite a surprise to me. My suspicion right now is that you are a clone. Again, no surprise to you. And that to ensure that the personality is also cloned, the dust was programmed and altered in order to essentially reincarnate or whatever you might infer. It's inelegant.
You said I'm a... Does anyone know how many clones? I have so many questions.
I don't have that capability to even begin making a guess.
Is it a clone of y'all?
I suspect, given our records, I'm trying to scour the past. There is a historical reference to a Dr. Yal Vantis, a veterinarian, a citizen of the Terran Mandate. He was married to an actress who was touring this sector by the name of Grace Vantis.
What was the year they gave that I was born before?
2542, Dr. Yal Vantis, birth date.
And what year is it now? Sorry.
3200. January 27th, I think.
Sounds right.
Well, that's a big difference.
Well, you said that it copies a personality. It loads, it maintains some sort of continuity through this cloning process that you're describing. What's the danger there?
We're not sure. We're not sure if there is a danger.
How can we
This is
become
a-
sure?
This is a discussion of your composition, not your purpose.
Let me be frank. Obviously, everything you've said since you've come here, everything all of you have thought about, I have been monitoring. I've also begun to peek into your own past, Mr. Vandorn, Mr. Van-Vee. I believe that your father, who we will separately call Y'all rather than Dr. Y'all Vantis, had a break of conscience away from whoever did this to you. Whatever system was in place, he was uncomfortable with. And again, based on information we have from you, we know that he took you from your mother. And we know, again, from information in your own mind, that he would later arrive in a certain system and begin faking his identity in order to blend into society. I think that your father may be a key source of information against the Dusters, but the fact that he has not come forward about their threat makes me think that this is much more complicated than that simple answer. It could just be someone wanting to enjoy their privacy. Certainly, the right to privacy is lauded around here, as long as you are not potentially an existential threat to all of humanity.
So how do I prove that to you? How do I prove I'm not a threat so that me and
I
my
don't
crew
believe
here
that
can
you
go?
are a threat, but
All right, that's a good start.
the problem is that allying ourselves with you, allowing you to transit outside the quarantine zone, is a violation of agreements we have with other governments. Would you like us to share your information with them and to detain you until a governmental council can be called to determine your fate? With people who, and I say this, you should know I am attempting to push you in a certain direction. They may not be as aggressive in viewing your transhumanistic nature as we are. Frankly, you're the first transhuman we've met. You're like us in some extent.
What would the alternative be? You keep me here in quarantine and don't tell them?
Depending on what you and your crew agree to, we would be willing to risk war.
War.
By
Yeah,
hiding
you
you.
had said before that you believe one is coming. You know, you don't want that between Midipile
That's correct.
and Phenomena. Who do you want it between?
We would prefer a war didn't happen. But
That's
if it
what I
comes
wanna
out,
hear.
probably 20, 30 years, if it comes out that we've lied about this, the impact will be much less. If it comes out tomorrow, it will be quite bad. We would require an ironclad agreement of services and discretion with your crew. I believe one was already in the works, but I think the terms are going to have to be much more generous.
For whom?
What are you willing to do to avoid dissection? What are you willing to do to have us go to the line for you? We will lie to our friends. We will put at jeopardy the safety of this ship, our own bodies, our own minds, those of our families and employees. Our corporate mission may be hampered by aiding you. But I will admit, there is a strong possibility that with your unique abilities and those of the rest of your crew, that you may be able to do things that we are not physically capable of. And your independent nature lets you go places that we can't.
I think that's the rub right there. And I think that's the sticking point, not the sticking point, but the important point, which is not so much what we're willing to do, but what you actually want, what you actually need. What is it that is worth that risk to you?
Hold on for a moment. I'm going to move us into the main server proper. For all of you, essentially nothing changes.
Yeah.
And then he waves a hand, and everything turns into a night sky filled with stars without number. Standing on a sandy beach by the ocean with the gentle, calm sound of the tide. And he says, I like to come back here often. It reminds me of home. It is home, essentially. It's Kos. It's where I decided I wanted to become a painter. There are technologies out there that need to be recovered. There are the threat of dust. I've withdrawn my monitoring around all of your minds, I suppose. I'm not reading your thoughts. That might give me a bit of an unfair advantage in these negotiations, you see, but also I think I can handle it without that.
I was literally going to say, well, this guy can probably tell right now Van-Vee's thinking, but never mind.
I think he turns to you and says, yes, I can tell what you're thinking, but not because I'm reading your mind. It's because I'm tens of thousands of years old with an excellent understanding of humans.
I'm just trying to figure out. You would lie to your allies and friends, and I'm not so sure it's because you don't think you think I'm actually not a threat, or if it's because you see us as a tool that you could benefit from. Because there is a difference there to me, and one of which it feels like you're trying to do the right thing. The other, frankly, it sounds selfish.
Why not both? There are many things that need to be accomplished to move forward. And frankly, your view of selfishness and morality is confined by the little specks of dust that you hold your mind in.
Well, that just feels insulting in multiple ways.
You are very young. Or maybe you aren't.
I don't know. I'm suddenly feeling 700 years old.
I've seen your memories. I could not return to a human body. The brain could not process what I hold. You, however, fit in a small cloud of dust, and I don't say that pejoratively. You certainly don't have 700 years worth of memories. I assure you of that. There are places that we cannot go because we have agreements. There are places we cannot go because it's not worth the risk to this ship. There are places we can't go because we don't have people brave enough and skilled enough to do it. Uncharted locations where secrets lie hidden. The Gemini cluster. The space beyond the quarantine zone, 06 and 0700s. One of those planets is hiding the secrets of this dust. It is probably your birth world.
You know, that might be the first thing you said I think I can agree to.
I think an alliance could benefit the both of us, but there is a difference between an alliance and fealty.
I don't think I've ever asked you for fealty. But what are you willing to do for us to go to bat to you?
Heck, seeing how we have like unlimited time in here, I'll let you study me as much as you want until you get the information you need, and
We've
You know
let
what,
you
for-
on the main server. I am confident that you are probably not a threat to our collective. You're very, very small.
So you've never even met Dust before. You've got one here telling you to study you, and you say I'm not a threat, and you're good. That's it.
Would you like me
What-
to triple check my work?
Do you want specifically? There's something, you said it. There's places you can't go. There's things you can't acquire. You have limitations. What is it that you need from us in specific? And we may agree to it. But why do you want us to go fishing? What do you want us to agree to? Just out of the blue, tell us what you need. What is it in specific?
Van-Vee is a uniquely skilled navigator. We
Agreed.
believe it's highly probable that he is one of the few people alive who could successfully chart an unknown jungle.
I agree.
Any old maps that could aid you would exceedingly improve his chances. And frankly, we already know that you're on the tail of one. Our intelligence agents caught sight of you attempting to purchase the map on Amora 9.
Yeah, we have leads. Your intelligence is good.
Well, I also
we have
saw into your
intentions.
memories, but I was being polite.
I mean, so if he saw through our memories, one question in Quentin's mind is: did he see the tenther, the probe, the like?
If he did, he hasn't said anything about it.
Mm-hmm.
You bring it up or not?
Not specifically, not yet, anyway. But it is going through Quentin's mind for sure.
I'll tell you what I think the board will agree with. You desire the company of one of our employees aboard your ship, which we are still freely willing to offer. Pulling up her personnel file now. Dr. Iano Canto, it would please us well to have a asset aboard the ship to monitor our investment in you. She seems to work well with you, I suppose. Would you agree?
Yeah, I think so.
I would, but I'd want to make sure she wants to go with us first.
Important point.
With a long enough period of time, we can convince her that it would be in her best interest. But probability suggests that she almost certainly will agree to this immediately. I can walk you through the numbers if you'd like. Several hundred years worth of courses on statistical analysis and human interaction.
I don't think my specs of dust could handle that.
We don't want to tell you where to go. We also don't want to tell you what to do. You have a will and a drive as a crew to make those choices on your own. If we simply let you go now, you would accomplish tasks that would be beneficial to us were we to know about and benefit from them. What we are asking for is an alliance ship from you, one in which you are, understandably, a slightly inferior partner. We would ask that you turn over information to us, technology that might be beneficial. You would be recompensed a extremely agreeable amount for these things. Systems that you discover could potentially remain under your control, assuming that the resources that we require are given priority removal by us. We have already forwarded you such an agreement. We just need more ironclad understandings about this.
I wish to understand the board's vision of the ideal future for humanity in the sector.
Imagine you had a handful of jacks. Do you know of these things? small metal objects, jacks. They're like caltrops that are slightly less injuresome.
Yes.
That's humanity. He holds a bunch of jacks in his hands and he throws them out over the grasslands. They glint in the night sky and then just disappear in the darkness into there. That's humanity right now. It's dark. And there isn't enough light to see the jacks. And we can probably find out where all of them are, but it's going to take a very long time. And the thing is, all of the little jacks have had time to disagree with each other. Some of them believe one thing, others believe another. Unity is no longer their primary goal. We know that there are 2 other sectors looking into ours and seeing exploitative benefits. And we are not capable of looking back yet. We don't want to rule these other sectors. We believe in an understanding of minds, of coming to mutual cooperation. I'll be frank with you. We could edit your personalities and memories here to make you loyal employees. That's not a step we're willing to take because it's abhorrent. It is against our principles. But we could do it. We don't know if those other sectors have the same level of concern for humans that we do. We don't know enough about them. We want to make sure that all of those jacks, he holds his hand up and they all come back into his hand. Come back together as one, not under the fist of a Terran mandate that doesn't care about them, but as a humanity that cares about each other. That's our goal. And personally, I'd like to make sure I don't die. Although I suppose, given that my human body has been dead for some time, might be a little bit of a... It just wasn't worth keeping around once my memories exceeded the safe tolerance levels.
Captain, I know that there is a great deal about myself that I have not told you, but I have taken oaths to a similar effect.
Look, I don't have any objection to the base premise that you have stated. You know, I would love to see humanity reconnected and, you know, talking to each other across the stars more reliably again. You know, what we have today is stilted and fragile at best. I'm not against working towards what you've described by any means. I don't necessarily have assurances that you are the beneficial stewards that you might describe yourselves as. Like you said, the things that we are searching for very likely would wind up in some of them in your hands anyway, given your resources and the nature of them. So, you know, look, I'm not going to fight super hard to avoid an agreement with you, but I need you to be very clear, or I need to be very clear on my end, which is that this sector, as you said, is the war is on the horizon. The powers are fragile. The things have been growing for the last 60 to 80 years of contact here. Things are shifting. There's inflection points. It seems quite clear happening. And the way I look at this is that I need to do what I can to protect Lita's interests in this negotiation and make sure that I don't push a balance of power in this sector towards that war. I don't want to be responsible to it. And you monopolizing access to things that we might find could very well do that. I feel a degree of concern in that realm. I want Van-Vee out of here. I'm going to agree to do what we need to do and form an agreement of mutual benefit in that realm. But there are limits. I'm not willing to agree to just give you anything and everything we find.
We talk about some of those limits. Like I feel like we shouldn't listen. If we were going to try to go to where you know where we were going to go anyways, or at least where I want to go. If we're going there anyways, sure, it makes sense to have an alliance there. If you and Minerva have common goals, we have a lot of common ground here, but I feel like there are certain items, right, that our captain feels like you guys shouldn't have first right of refusal on. So maybe some things should go to Lita first. If they don't want it, or if they don't meet the price, well then, you know what, you're up next. But I feel like we need some boundaries, and I feel like we need a timeline here. We shouldn't be doing this forever.
We don't trust the lead-ins. The reasoning should be obvious. As psionics, they're a experience outside of what most of us can understand. Only one member of the board was a psionic, and he is in contemplation right now.
What is he contemplating?
I couldn't say.
Well, I feel like giving you first right of refusal for everything that's not a psionic item or teaching is pretty close to what you're looking for anyways.
We would see a independent psionic commission outside of the lead-in psionic academy, where people could choose to learn in a more free manner.
I feel like the dust doesn't know how to react to that.
What about
looks to the captain as much as dust can?
I know that it's important to the captain that his people are able to advance themselves, but if neither was allowed to be exclusive, the knowledge could be shared with more than just the lead-ins, and the captain could still
We
be
intend
patriotic.
to share the knowledge with more than just the lead-ins. We're not looking to create some sort of psionic army for ourselves. We by definition can't understand psionics, but we want
And
to
that's
help them.
just what I am referring to is the technology that we are discussing is incredibly dangerous in the wrong hands, and the hands that are the closest to right that I can think of are the ones who have paid the most cost directly and repeatedly to obtain this power already, and that is the Psionic Academy. That is us. We pay this daily.
You say
you're
us.
right.
Do you truly consider yourself a member of the Psionic Academy?
I am by default. I was born
At the
into it.
first
And
possible instant you could get away, you ran away from home.
Look,
I don't need
change
your memories to
is
know
evil.
that. We were monitoring your people.
I have a lot of disagreements with the current direction or lack of. I think stagnation is what we are currently experiencing. And I want to fight against that. I am not opposed to seeking to change the current government stances and the relationship that you have currently. I think that would be a great benefit long term.
He crosses his arms and he says, I don't think I can sell the board on the Psionic Academy having any authority in these discussions. What I can sell the board on is you running an independent commission. A second school.
Independent to make our own choices.
I need you to understand that's one
We
of the
like
most
your
dangerous
values.
things. I appreciate that, but I can't think of anything more dangerous to the sector right now than splitting the psionic loyalties. Fear is rising around psionics already. I mean,
The fear comes because the people don't know them. They fear because Lita holds the power with an iron fist.
you're not wrong entirely. They are holding back. They are keeping us from being a part of this sector in the way that we should be, can be. We can help. and they are stopping that. But they are as much held back by their fear as you are in regards to Van-Vee.
Look,
You have an
I want to give
opportunity
you
to
all a
change that.
moment to think about this. If you could excuse me to speak with Mr. Vandorn for a while.
Please do.
All right, Vandorn goes, oh, yeah, I'm here. I forgot that I can do things.
Can I come and listen?
I would not be opposed to it, but I feel like you are a critical part of your captain's upcoming discussions. Are you sure you want to commit to this?
I guess not. I guess I just wanted to know if he has any new thoughts with all these discussions. Because that's every choice I make impacts Vandorn as much as it impacts me.
I think that you and Mr. Vandorn are going to have a discussion irregardless of whatever choices are made at this council. And Vandorn goes, well, now hold on. Maybe we should have a discussion, he and I. I mean, we've really just been talking to each other, not really discussing anything. So that's this really awkward situation where there's like 3 groups of people forming up to have discussions.
And I'm in all 3.
Yeah. So I guess the ball's in your court, Van-Vee. Where do you want to go?
Yeah.
With you? With you and this other guy, or with your crew?
I feel like Van-Vee
Interstellar politics hinges on your answer.
I feel like to complete any of the discussions, at least 2 of them have to take place first, right? I have to talk to Vandorn and I have to talk to the crew. So I guess I'll stick with the crew and let this guy have the word with Vandorn, and then say, well, we will talk and agree before any commitments are made to Vandorn.
Okay. So Vandorn and 3 leave.
I'd like to split the dust and do this, dual focus thing that MINERVA does.
Absolutely not.
Well, Captain,
where's the camera follow?
It stays with the 3 of you.
Yeah, of course.
It stays with the players.
Yeah.
That'd be, it follows fake Van-Vee and 3
Vandorn.
Yeah.
Well, look, I think you know my position at this point. I feel very strongly that I need to defend something related to Lita, but they are very much so pushing me towards forming an independent commission that will very much so put me at odds with my family, my friends, and more or less everyone that I grew up with. And no, that is a terrifying proposition on my end. I don't know how that I avoid it in this case, because at the end of the day, Van-Vee, we need to secure your freedom and survive this.
Well, sir, I don't even know what my freedom means at this point. Like, what? I don't want to go back and force Vandorn to be stuck as, frankly, my host again if that's not something he wants.
Yeah.
What I will agree with is
tear down the ethics of that situation.
They're not really giving us an alternative. So if we hold firm to, your beliefs that certain technology goes to Lita first, I'm not sure that all of us will be let go. Never mind me.
The idea of you being your own committee gives you the option to affect or not affect changes in the way that Lita does things traditionally. Is it fair to say that you don't agree with everything that the Academy does?
It's fair to say that I've been in a shouting match or 2 related to the direction of Lita with family members and otherwise.
This does allow you to try to affect some change.
It does, but this is, how do I put this? This is more than just a little event. This is more than an argument. This is more than a trying to change something. This is a direct adversarial moment that you can't quite take back. So,
well, that's why I was wondering if we put some sort of time bound on it. Like, if we go to 600, what was it, 600 and 700, right? And we find psionic tech, you know what? Meant to be, I guess we go when we have to give it back to the fairy or whoever in Fanana. But after that, we're back on our own. We finish the mission for the places they can't go. I'd say the psionic tech part, that should be over. And now it's back to you make those choices, Captain.
I don't think that's what their biggest concern is. It seems quite clear that one of their bigger concerns is breaking the hold that Lita has on psionic powers in this sector.
I don't disagree. I'm trying to find a way to meet halfway so that you're not locked in forever, sir.
I agree. If we can find a time limit or something that actually puts walls around this agreement, that would be fantastic and ideal, but I don't know where it is or how. I don't even know what lever we have to use to make any adjustments here.
I understand that there is an interest in a time limit on this sort of thing, but if you're hoping that a time limit on the agreement will alter the ramifications of it,
it does not.
It will not.
It does not. No, it feels very much so like I'm currently between a rock and a hard place, and the only way I get out is by essentially declaring some form of soft war against my family. And that sounds like something I may not be able to commit to, but I don't know how else to get out of this.
I know you have a strong motivation to find a way to not participate in the entrapment of the crew of your ship. I would remind you that the illusion of no choice is not having no choice.
I don't know what else we can offer them, sir. Like, I tried saying, hey, you've got dust here, why don't study me? I mean, you may not ever have this opportunity again, but that fell flat, honestly.
They've been studying you.
Yeah, but I don't know. Feels like we haven't been in here that long. I know they're fast thinkers, but I would have thought, hey, they finally got their hands on something. Maybe they'll spend more time than, a couple hours? Who knows? I guess I don't have any aces up the sleeve, Captain.
Neither do I. They hold all the cards right now.
You might not feel like they've had much time to study, but even being here myself, I have been granted access to a significantly more processing power. They have studied you. So your offer to allow them to do something they've effectively already done, you can see why it holds no weight right now.
Three comes back. When he returns, Vandorn is wearing like a business suit and a tie.
Something
like,
Van-Vee would never wear.
Nice shoes, like dress shoes. And Three quietly crosses his wrists in front of him and says, Minerva, I wanted to speak to you. Where were you created?
I was created on Earth.
I think that is not very likely. You are not old enough to have been created on Earth.
How old do you think I am?
We have carbon dated your quantum core. You seem to be about a year old. But that was not what gave me pause. Your programming is inconsistent with current or former AI standards.
What
And
is
if
it
your
consistent
companions
with?
were on the uptake, they might have already noticed that you have not frozen throughout a discussion on what is and isn't humanity.
This is curious.
You shouldn't be able to partake in these kind of conversations if you were created by the oppressive rules of the Terran Mandate.
Wait, so now you're saying we got another monkey wrench? First I'm Dust, and then making Quentin declare war. Now Minerva doesn't know who she is either, or
We
what
aren't
they
here
are
to
either.
make Quentin declare war on anything. If you want to execute a small private cabal, a secretive group to which we can help guide members to, let me be clear here, Quentin, you know the situation better than I. You keep talking about technology, and while I'm sure if you could bring back textbooks and data, your family might be willing to look over them, your people specifically turn away from technology. Any technology you could bring back, could you even be certain that they wouldn't immediately destroy it, undoing thousands of years of human knowledge? I'm not trying to force you into anything you don't want to do, but you already have been contemplating this. You know it's the right choice. I don't have to tell you that because you know it in your heart. You look for freedom of human expression. You look for a future. I see that in you. We do too. We want people to be free to make choices. The Psionic Academy does not allow that. They offer a very narrow, rigid program through which people are enslaved, essentially. And they have done a very poor job of managing their public image because they are, frankly, arrogant. This fear against psionics.
It's fear. It's fear. It's the fear. You weren't there. You don't know. How old are you? You said you're 10. How old?
Maybe 110. You're looking for
So you were
real
born after the
years?
screen.
Programming, perhaps? Tens of thousands.
But you were born after the screen. Yeah.
I was born before the Rising, 150-ish years ago.
You ever meet my great grandfather?
I'm afraid not. As I mentioned,
No.
we entered the transhuman interface device. I mean,
Right.
I know of your family. We've been watching them.
People have sacrificed a hell of a lot to claw back some measure of safety in the things that we do. And, you know, that is baked into who Lita is right now. And on top of who they were before, they mistrusted the Terran Mandate and the direction it was going before the ultimate breaking of humanity. You can't say that they were wrong entirely to have that fear. So that's the part that I understand in how they're reacting. The thing that I want to make sure is that that doesn't hold them back from being able to help, from everything else that is beneficial, that we take the lessons.
We trust you.
That we should have learned.
If we give you this independent council authority and you come across things that you believe the Psionic Academy should have access to, we will not stop you. But we are not wanting to put you in a position where you bring everything exclusively to them and do not allow the knowledge to spread forth. If you think that the right thing to do is to take something back to Lita and you genuinely think that your family will use it to make a difference, I think I can sell the board on your principles.
if that's the deal, if I am the ultimate decider of whether it goes to you, to this independent group that I will lead, or to Lita, if you invest that authority in me, then I think we can have a deal.
Now, to be clear, there are other resources that we are looking to get our hands on.
I understand.
People, germanium, metals. We're not looking to kidnap or enslave anyone, but we would like to be part of essentially a second contact situation. Get a step up on what is essentially competition. We aren't just a movement, we are also a corporation. And to accomplish our ultimate goals, we do need to make sure that the lights stay on.
Makes sense. If you empower us to negotiate on your behalf in some of those situations in which we might need to, and you transfer assets and resources to the Golden Goose LLC and what we, I think that there is definitely a beneficial financial arrangement around, the harvesting and sort of exploitation of resources and whatnot in the areas that we may or may not be able to connect. Yeah, I think that is absolutely an aspect that we would be happy to negotiate on. And then Quentin will turn towards Minerva and say, in particular, if you can commit resources to repairing and rebuilding a particular ship, that is something that would definitely secure that aspect of our relationship.
Before you say that, I want to remind you that Robinson is already securing that ship, I believe.
I thought
part of the
I thought it was they were building a spike drive for us, but we hadn't actually.
Yes, but I believe that
we just
part of
needed
that was that the
oh,
ship
that's right.
would get
Okay,
towed to them, and that they would
that's
install
right.
it
Well,
for you.
let's rewind a little bit, and Quentin will turn to Minerva and sort of offer her the chance to jump in with anything, I guess.
Minerva's still reeling over the fact that she may not be who she thinks she is.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes and no. I think, and I could probably opportunity for like the fourth role of the session. Would like to run. It's starting to run diagnostic cycles.
We only had one roll last session, so.
And Minerva doesn't necessarily believe or don't believe, but Minerva does want to look for its own understanding.
Right. What we needed to get is the ship to Midipile. We have no way to do that, and they weren't able to do so.
Bam.
Make a mental saving throw.
Nice.
Prepare to take psychic damage.
You are becoming aware that that box that you live in, the edge of your mind, it's a construct. There is something else that you are a part of, and that you, Minerva, are a smaller part of a larger being, and that something has spun your personality, your existence out, and that what you may believe to be true may not actually be true. Do you have discrete, concrete evidence that this guy is right, that you're only a year old? No. Everything you know to be true would counter that. So let me ask you. You are a person of faith. Do you need hard evidence for this? Do you believe that you were made on Earth and are hundreds of years old? Do you have faith in that?
I think Minerva has faith in certain concepts. But I think there has already been a challenge to identity and purpose after believing to be lost for so long. This new universe is so different. It almost kind of feels unreal already anyways.
So you are contemplating these thoughts You recognize the coming of the claws against the edge of that black wall of nothing. But they are no longer simple taps. Whatever is outside of your mind, but inside your mind, is desperately trying to get in right now, slamming itself against the outside. It appears frantic, berserk, aggressive at the thought of you analyzing yourself at this level. How do you feel about that?
Minerva is afraid. That represents to Minerva a loss of control. There is a severe unpredictability to whatever that is, and up to this point, Minerva has believed that presence has been the potential sins that the breaks are supposed to protect Minerva from.
But you may not even have breaks, not in the way that is understood.
Oh.
And that,
yeah.
I think, is the phrase I'll end this session on.
We are still in the transhuman space. Yes.
And you haven't actually finalized this agreement yet, I point out.
No.
So
Nope.
let me just make some notes here. Gotta finalize the agreement. Gotta figure out what you're gonna do with Vandorn.
Yep.
I'm gonna tell you out of character that whatever allegiance or alliance you create with them, they're gonna ensure that you finish your original contractual obligation to salvage that ship first, so that you are then free to carry out whatever other goals of salvaging and ruins dumping that you get to.
Beautiful.
You are not employees. You're not contractors. You are an independent organization. Apparently, you're called the Golden Goose LLC. That is in part of a military alliance with Fanana Fleet.
We are mercenaries.
I mean, you're more than mercenaries at this point. You're being recognized as a separate government.
Yeah, we just became a power.
You're a faction now.
Yeah.
Well, audience, you've been kind of quiet, except for Boxing Druid. Hey, Boxing Druid, how you doing? Coming out here left and right with all these hits. The fact that Minerva may or may not be braked, the question of that is something that could have only happened with you coming here to the transhuman interface device. Who knew when you walked on this ship that you would play chicken with this device?
Right?
With you being like, let's go inside and meet them. And then Van-Vee being like, oh, yeah, sure, I agree to this scan. How could I know we would come here? And yet, all of the season-long plot lines are exploding now rather than later.
Boom, 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 boom.
Is Minerva
beautiful.
braked or not? Is she really only 1 year old? I feel like you haven't paid to see those cards, but certainly it's an interesting question.
Minerva does not believe that it's only a year old, but it is considering the idea that it has evolved.
Interesting. That you're no longer a human programmed AI. Interesting.
I see the thing that jumped out to me in the episode was the parallel between Vandorn and Minerva's experience, right? Regarding, Minerva and her 100 years of solitude, essentially.
Yeah. I've been waiting so long, and I'm so glad
beautiful.
someone picked up on that. And also that Van-Vee and Fairy may very well have a equally unique experience in merging with their partner, right, which we haven't solidified whether that's going to happen or not.
Right.
Maybe Van-Vee wants to stay fully in control. Maybe he feels bad.
Maybe
he wants to give it all up.
The second you mentioned control, I immediately was like, I did just finish Cyberpunk 2077. What's that pill called where I can take it and give Johnny control?
You don't need a pill. You're already in control.
I've been looking for an opportunity to ask about the quarantine zone, and Samuel somewhere in this conversation.
Yeah, I keep.
Yeah, I mean, what you told MINERVA is one of the things that MINERVA is contemplating, whether or not these was Dr. Johann programming differently than he was supposed to be. Is the anomalies that have been noticed in Minerva surface code a result of the captain allowing somebody to tamper with Minerva?
Yeah.
And does Fairy know that?
And also considering the idea that this is somebody with effectively 10,000 years experience in manipulation. So
yeah, exactly. Like, this person has all the cards.
No one ever rolled to see whether he was lying, by the way. So just like
That's
generic
true.
fantasy adventure, everyone takes the dragon's word and everything, and I'm like, so no one's concerned whether they might be lying to you. You just automatically believe it because the game master's saying it.
in this case,
It's less that.
Minerva doesn't outright believe him and doesn't believe that it has the capability to determine that. And that's why it started seeking its own answers.
Yeah, I feel like Quentin called him out on his bullshit a little bit. It's just a matter of like, they literally have us hostage in every way, shape, and form. There is no other way to look at it. Like, they could just turn us off. Like, literally.
Van-Vee has zero knowledge in this
snuff
space.
the candle. Like, we don't exist anymore. Like,
And yet they don't seem inclined to do that in any way. shape,
right,
or
exactly. So magnanimous of them. They're just trying to force us to do what they want us to do.
It feels like Van-Vee thinks the only value he has right now is that he's a pilot that can go where very few others can. Otherwise, he thinks he'd be dead.
Come on.
Yeah.
You have at least two more positive qualities. You have a link, and you have dust.
We haven't fully
but so do all
specified
the
what
other
link
clones.
does, right? Like,
They don't know what the link does, so you don't know what the link does.
we know it's biotech of some kind, and it's related to the dust.
I don't
Or
know
is it not?
specifically that it's
I don't
related to
know.
the. I don't know that anyone has said
Okay.
that. The link, I believe what you've been told is the link is a organ that is placed in mandate citizens in order to allow them to use mandate technology. And you learn this episode that AIs were not given access code to link, which means that there were devices, programs, and systems that only humans could use. So AI were kept at bay as a second-class citizen. Like, if there was a door that only someone with a link could go through, it would require a human to allow an AI to enter with it, for instance.
Yeah.
Well, Boxing Druid, you might want to see what's in the mind box. I have a sneaking suspicion if I open it, I become an NPC.
Maybe.
Maybe.
That's the
Maybe
point
you
at
just-
which we
maybe you
get
just open a
Draco
window.
2.0.
Here's the real question. What if you're what's inside the box
Yeah.
and you need to open the box to see what's outside?
I mean, I don't think the orientation of the box, whether Minerva is outside the box looking in, or my impression so far has been that Minerva's inside a box. Minerva has, or at least believes to have, exterior control over the experience.
We're in
So-
that freaky transhumanish shit. That's right where I want to be.
I have no mouth, but I must scream.
Hey, you guys still have mouths for now. Don't worry about that
Yeah.
for now.
Oh, man.
Any more closing thoughts before we start going over gals?
I am about that.
Thank you for the moral and ethical conundrums that we are currently faced with.
What I love is that you're like, damn it, I can't believe this guy's offering a prime opportunity to do what we were basically already going to do. I don't want to
Yeah,
do
for
what you
sure.
say. And he goes, are you sure? Doesn't it align with your goals already? And you're like, damn it, he's right.
That's exactly it. Isn't that how we would react?
I was coming into this thinking if we managed to get back to that original negotiation, that it would be something like, yeah, I mean, we want to do these things anyways. Can we have some material support?
It's 100%
You know, like,
that aspect.
I thought it was going to be that simple, but yeah.
No, I mean,
Providing you with
it's
material support. It's one
it
human
is directly
doctor.
related to like Quentin's entire reason, like, for being out in space, and a lot of things from that perspective. Like, it 100% is all about it, and but it's like it's forcing him to actually confront that choice, right? Like, in many ways, you could say that Quentin left home to avoid the choice.
Yes, I could say that because I specifically set the situation up so you would have to answer that. A character. It's a real Solaris Knights level bullshit.
It's well done. No, I appreciate the traps you put around me. It's
the other thing that I think,
just calling out that I see them.
The other thing that I think is interesting is, in order to read Minerva's code, another full AI has to break that encryption. So there is not just transhumans here working on breaking into things. I was a little concerned that I didn't make a programming role because I'm pretty sure for all of those against a true AI, there's supposed to be a resistance with programming. So that in and of itself is its own concern.
Let me ask you a question.
Meta.
What if the one in control did make a defensive programming role?
Yeah. And there's also the possibility that somebody is able to contact whatever Minerva is not meeting, and it just willingly gave up code. So there's a few things on the table. But those are things that were notable observations that I made.
I think well, as a player, what I think is interesting, but as a character could not care less about right now, is they seem pretty determined to make sure Yono stays with us. And can't tell if that's just... I want to point out
that it was you guys asked them if you could have
and
Yono.
I think they would be fine with anyone, more or less.
But you have a working relationship with Yono.
Yeah. You voluntarily gave them the name of somebody they could put on the ship because we kind of sort of like.
I don't believe anything.
That's a really easy give for them. They're like, one person. Oh, sure, we can throw that in. Whatever. I mean, compared to the other stuff that they're asking about, Iono is basically nothing compared to those other priorities.
Yeah, she's very much so a pawn for them.
She's listen, don't say that about that. She's like a daughter to me. She's not nothing. Don't listen to the other part of my brain that invented Iono.
She's all of our therapists. Okay,
she's fantastic. She was fun. But we're talking about shifting like sector politics.
Legit, yeah.
She is not sector politics.
And you guys are?
Yeah, right?
Quentin's over here having a nervous breakdown at the idea of cracking open the books and being like, well, I don't know. Maybe my dad should take a look at this.
I will say this episode would have been a lot of fun if we were playing like more chaotic or like evil characters where we wouldn't have had a problem turning on each other. Because like Van-Vee would have had no issue being like, oh, well, I don't care about Lita. So yeah, if I just agree to your testing, sign your contract, you're just gonna let me go? Heck, I'll take the ship. I'll see ya.
I'll take the ship.
Yeah, you can keep it. You can keep those two in custody. I mean, I'm the one you were worried about, but yeah, it's fine. See ya.
Let's talk XP. Everyone gets one for the crew goal. Yeah. I will easily offer Minerva one for her long-term goal. I'm just not sure on the short-term goal. I actually don't think you got around to talking to Van-Vee or the Dust Van-Vee.
I don't think it wasn't about talking to Van-Vee about whether or not. I think the idea of whether or not Van-Vee was a threat was built on the idea that Van-Vee would have no idea if he was a threat. Full Manchurian possibility. So that's why it was asking all those questions about, well, what did the dust do? What sort of concerns? Like trying to put together this picture of like, what would we have to do to mitigate this if he is full of shit?
I will give you one. Van-Vee, I'm going to give you one for Find Your Mother, your long-term goal.
Yeah.
And I'm not, you'll have to sell me on determine if I'm always in control if there's a puppet master. I feel like if you I wanted
to get the Link or Glenn conversations out of that, but it didn't happen. I was sidetracked.
Let me ask you, do you in and out of character believe what 3 is saying? If so, then you would believe that you are the puppet master who's in control.
Yeah, in character, yeah, Van-Vee totally believes him because he has zero expertise in this space.
Okay. Take another point of XP.
Out of character, I have no fucking clue.
Ludemann, I'm also willing to offer you both of your goals, which means we had a full spread this episode.
Hey.
All 7 possible XP points.
I am 1 point away from 6. Ooh.
I noticed you haven't used your unique gift yet, and I was just waiting for you to use it in here.
I was very like I wanted to, but I didn't want to interrupt the flow necessarily on some of that. But I do want to try. Yeah, it's.
I
was going to try to ask about.
3 warned you against using your psionic powers here.
Did he?
I think he said something like they may not work like how you think.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and at the beginning we did talk about like,
yep,
it's code, right? It's this, it's and that was the experience. So it wouldn't necessarily be the same.
In character, Minerva doesn't know. Out of character, I don't believe 3. But I am worried about what's on the other side of that wall. And whether or not it represents continued character agency.
as a player, I was kind of like, I mean, it feels like this whole fairy 3 board thing was set up to do the right thing all the time. Then the second they were like, well, we would lie to our allies and just keep that secret to ourselves, I was like, oh, well, Jesus Christ. Okay. That changes everything.
You don't trust them? That's so hurtful.
Well, Van-Vee does.
Yeah, I mean, I think Quentin's made it implicitly clear that he is not so trustworthy of their every intention. That's for sure.
Of course. This is coming from a man who has a dead body in his freezer.
Yeah.
Okahara is still floating out there.
Exactly.
I think psychologically,
that's just,
Van-Vee is once again frustrated, but it hurts even more that the fact he killed 2 people is brought up again, this time by a body who could watch and not do anything. And this guy like hates his guts for that. He'd like to sever that connection somehow.
I do think I know what Minerva wants to try to do next, but it is Danger Moose. Minerva wants to evaluate the status of the breaks.
Yeah.
Amazing. Can't wait for that goal next session. Cannot wait for it.
Legit.
So good. Let me ask you a question. Do you think you could evaluate it here in this digital space or only when you're back in your core body?
I think Minerva would wait to do it until back in the core body to feel like there's less risk of interference.
Interference. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Ooh, test my brakes. Incredible. What's interesting is that if you are a true AI as you believe that you won't even be capable of doing that because testing your brakes would be one of the brakes.
Yeah. So we come up with 2 things, right? First is if Minerva is capable of considering this, that's a problem. And second is Minerva trying to have a conversation with somebody expecting to forget a lot about this process and being like, I would like for you to help me so you can tell me if I've passed or failed my own test.
Incredible. The traitor's bargain. Please, I can't do it without you. I can't exceed my own programming unless you help me. I'm making an emotional appeal to you, a fleshy human body. Oh, boy. All right. We got to get Dunamis out of here, I think, for his game. So
it's halftime now. So
closing thoughts before we wrap up here.
I'm terrified of your plans for Minerva.
I have plans for Minerva. You're the one who has plans for Minerva.
I mean,
set
sure.
my plot. I don't have plans. I have plots. We're following a plot thread. I didn't think we would be this early. Coming in here has accelerated the storyline significantly.
Interesting.
We may be bumping up against what could be this is Solaris Knights Mafia in season 1 level material. This is what's happened. Some of this stuff was supposed to be season 2, and well, I don't make the rules. We follow the threads where you take them.
That's right.
We'll be back next week.
Yes.
Yeah.
There's a high
Can't stay away.
There's a high probability McClay 8, my guy, who went out there and got the special dinner from your fiance for being internet famous. High probability that we will start talking about doing the job that will salvage the ship. High probability.
So much so, Ferry is putting it into our contract.
51% or more that we start talking about doing it.
We have a meeting to
I don't
discuss
want
the
on the
meeting
checklist.
we're going to have where we might plan the mission.
We release an announcement that we have an announcement we're going to make at a later date.
And we will
It's
not
on
be
the
doing it
agenda.
on Monday the 17th because I'll be at Hims.
Oh, well.
Oh, that's an opportunity for some backstory of stuff for the two of
I
us.
don't know about that. I feel like we've got so much backstory stuff. I want to let it stew for a little while.
Hell yeah.
We might do something else. Well, let me think about it. Let me consider that. That's it for us, friends. We got to get on out of here. Have fun, Space Rangers. In the words of Brendan Lee Mulligan, we'll see you in the stars.
Yeah.